I want to ask you a question today that is not only urgent, it's eternal. It's a question that pierces through every culture, every religion, every philosophy, and lands squarely in the heart of every human being. Is there only one way to God? Now, I know in our world that's not a comfortable question. We live in a society where tolerance has become the highest virtue, where a many paths sounds loving and exclusive truth sounds arrogant. And yet, if eternity is real, if heaven and hell are real, if there is a creator who made you and will one day call you to account, then my friend, this question is not optional. It's not philosophical. It's not political. It's personal. I can promise you this. By the time we are finished today, you will not leave wondering where you stand on this question, because the truth about the way to God is not something we can afford to guess at. You see, this is not like choosing a restaurant, where if you don't like your meal, you can go somewhere else tomorrow. This is not like picking a vacation spot, where every path will eventually lead to some beautiful destination. This is about life and death, forever. And there's no room for a maybe when forever is on the line. The world says, choose whatever path feels right to you. But history, logic, and yes, truth itself say otherwise. I am here to take you on a journey that will challenge what you've heard, confront what you've assumed, and, if you'll stay with me, show you the undeniable, life-changing, eternity-securing answer. So before you decide what you believe, before you close your heart to the possibility, before you let the noise of culture drown out the whisper of truth, I'm going to ask you to lean in. Listen, not to me, but to the voice of the one who has been calling humanity since the beginning of time. Because if there really is only one way to God, you cannot afford to miss it. I want to ask you a question today that is not only urgent, it's eternal. It's a question that pierces through every culture, every religion, every philosophy, and lands squarely in the heart of every human being. Is there only one way to God? Now, I know in our world that's not a comfortable question. We live in a society where tolerance has become the highest virtue, where in many paths sounds loving and exclusive truth sounds arrogant. And yet, if eternity is real, if heaven and hell are real, if there is a creator who made you and will one day call you to account, then my friend, this question is not optional. It's not philosophical. It's not political. It's personal. I can promise you this. By the time we are finished today, you will not leave wondering where you stand on this question. Because the truth about the way to God is not something we can afford to guess at. You see, this is not like choosing a restaurant where if you don't like your meal, you can go somewhere else tomorrow. This is not like picking a vacation spot where every path will eventually lead to some beautiful destination. This is about life and death, forever. And there's no room for a maybe when forever is on the line. The world says, choose whatever path feels right to you. But history, logic, and yes, truth itself say otherwise. I am here to take you on a journey that will challenge what you've heard, confront what you've assumed, and, if you'll stay with me, show you the undeniable, life-changing, eternity-securing answer. So before you decide what you believe, before you close your heart to the possibility, before you let the noise of culture drown out the whisper of truth, I'm going to ask you to lean in. Listen, not to me, but to the voice of the one who has been calling humanity since the beginning of time. Because if there really is only one way to God, you cannot afford to miss it. Let's begin where every heart begins, at the question that refuses to go away. All over the world, across every generation, people have been wrestling with the same longing, the same uncertainty. How can I know God? It doesn't matter if you're standing on the bustling streets of a modern city, walking through the dusty paths of an ancient village, or sitting alone in the quiet of your own thoughts. The human heart was made with a need for God, and sooner or later that need rises to the surface. From the earliest civilizations, men and women have searched for Him. They've looked to the stars as if the heavens might tell them how to reach the one who made them. They've carved idols from stone and wood, hoping to create an image of the divine. They've built temples, offered sacrifices, followed rituals, and written volumes of philosophy. Every effort in some way is an attempt to bridge the gap between earth and heaven, between the human and the holy. Why is that? Why does every culture, no matter how isolated or advanced, develop some idea of God or gods? It's because deep inside each of us there is an awareness, sometimes faint, sometimes fierce, that we are not here by accident. We were made, and we were made for something more than this life. And when we come to that realization, the next question is unavoidable. How do I connect with the one who made me? Now, if you ask that question in today's world, you will hear a chorus of answers. Some will tell you, all religions are basically the same. Pick one, and as long as you're sincere, you'll be fine. Others will say, there's no way to know for sure, so do what makes you happy now and hope it works out later. Still others will avoid the question altogether, filling their days with noise, entertainment, and distraction so they never have to face the silence where these thoughts echo the loudest. But here's the truth. Not all answers can be true at the same time. Two paths that lead in opposite directions cannot both take you to the same destination. If one path says God is personal and another says God is an impersonal force, both cannot be right. If one teaches salvation comes through grace and another teaches salvation comes through works, those are not simply different flavors of the same truth. They are fundamentally different realities. And yet, this is where the world pushes back. Why can't you just say everyone is right? They ask. Wouldn't that be more loving? Wouldn't that bring more peace? But friend, love doesn't affirm what is false. It points to what is true because only truth can save. If a doctor knows the exact cure for a deadly disease and he tells his patient, take whatever medicine you like, they're all the same. That's not kindness. It's cruelty. The most loving thing he can do is say, this is the only treatment that will heal you. Take it and you will live. That's why this question, is there only one way to God, isn't just about religion. It's about reality. Either there is a God or there is not. Either he has made himself known or he has not. Either there is a way to him or there is not. And if there is, then our greatest responsibility is to discover what that way is and walk in it. I'll tell you something, God is not playing hide and seek. He is not sending us on a hopeless treasure hunt where the map changes every day. He is not leaving us to grope in the dark, hoping that somehow, someday, we'll stumble into the truth by accident. No, he has revealed himself. Through creation, through conscience, through his word, through his son. He has been calling humanity since the beginning, and he is still calling today. The reason this question demands an answer is because eternity is not something we can postpone. Life is brief. We all know that. A single heartbeat separates the present from forever. And when that moment comes, what we believed about this question will matter more than anything else we ever did, achieve, or possess. We cannot afford to treat it casually. We cannot afford to say, I'll figure it out later. Later is not guaranteed. And so if there is only one way to God, and that way has been revealed, then the wisest, most urgent thing you could ever do is to find that way and follow it with all your heart. Because the greatest tragedy in life is not to miss success or wealth or recognition. It's to miss the God who made you. When we talk about finding the way to God, we are not dealing with vague ideas or speculative philosophies. We are dealing with a claim that stands apart from every other religious teaching in history. And that claim comes from a single voice, a voice that did not merely point to truth, but declared himself to be the truth. He did not come saying, I have found a way, or here is one path among many. He came saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That statement is unlike anything else ever spoken by a spiritual leader. It's not a suggestion. It's not an opinion. It's a declaration of absolute reality. And because of its absolute nature, it forces us into a decision. Either this statement is true or it's false. If it's false, then Jesus was either mistaken or deceptive, and his teachings cannot be trusted. But if it's true, if he really is the only way to God, then every other path, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how sincere the traveler, will fall short. Now, in our modern culture, this exclusivity is what makes people uncomfortable. We like options. We like flexibility. We like a buffet where we can pick and choose what we want and leave the rest behind. But truth doesn't work that way. 2 + 2 will always be 4, no matter how passionately someone argues that it should be 5. Gravity will always pull you toward the ground, whether or not you believe in it. And the way to God will always be exactly what God has declared it to be. whether or not the world approves of it. What makes the words of Jesus so powerful is not just the claim itself, but the life that backed it up. Anyone can make grand statements, but he validated his claim through everything he did. He fulfilled ancient prophecies written centuries before his birth. He lived a sinless life in a world where every other human being falls short. He demonstrated authority over nature, disease, demons, even death. And ultimately, he walked into the grave and came out again, not as a ghost, not as a myth, but as the risen Lord witnessed by hundreds. Every miracle, every teaching, every act of compassion was a signpost pointing back to the truth of his identity. When he said, "I am the way," it wasn't arrogance. It was the loving honesty of the one who knew there was no other door that would lead to life. He didn't come to exclude people. He came to save them. The exclusivity of the way is not about shutting people out. It's about pointing them to the only bridge that can carry them across the great divide between sin and God's holiness. This is why it's so important to understand the difference between Jesus and every other religious leader. Others came as teachers or prophets, telling us how to live, how to reach higher, how to earn our way. But Jesus came not only to teach, but to rescue. Others pointed to the path they thought would lead to God. Jesus pointed to himself and said, "You don't have to climb the mountain to find God. God has come down to you." If there were many ways to God, the cross would make no sense. Why would the Son of God suffer the agony of crucifixion if we could reach God through any other means? Why endure the shame, the nails, the weight of the world's sin, if all roads ultimately lead to the same destination? The cross is proof that there is no other way. It was not an unnecessary gesture. It was the only possible payment for the debt we could not pay. And this is where we must be honest with ourselves. Accepting Jesus' claim means rejecting the idea that all paths are equally valid. It means acknowledging that sincerity alone is not enough because you can be sincerely wrong. It means laying down our pride, admitting we cannot save ourselves, and placing all our trust in the one who gave everything to open the way for us. It's not an easy message for the world to hear, but it's the most important one it will ever hear. Because if Jesus is who he says he is, and the evidence is overwhelming, then he is not just a good teacher or a moral example. He is the only hope of salvation. And when the only hope is offered to you, the wisest thing you can ever do is take hold of it with both hands and never let go, because there is no substitute for the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. When it comes to a claim as absolute as only one way to God, we cannot afford to build our belief on feelings, assumptions, or popular opinion. Something this important must rest on evidence, solid, unshakable evidence that can stand the weight of eternity. And the beautiful thing is, God has not asked us to take a blind leap into the dark. He has given us a mountain of proof that invites us to step into the light. Let's start with the record of prophecy. Long before Jesus walked the earth, the Scriptures spoke of a Messiah who would come. These weren't vague predictions that could fit anyone. They were precise, detailed, and measurable. They told us where he would be born, in Bethlehem. They told us the lineage he would come from, the house of David. They told us the manner of his death, that his hands and feet would be pierced at a time in history when crucifixion had not yet been invented. They even described that his garments would be divided by casting lots, and that he would be buried in a rich man's tomb. These prophecies were written hundreds of years before he came, and yet he fulfilled them to the letter. The odds of one person accidentally fulfilling even a handful of them are astronomical, but he fulfilled them all. Then there is the historical reliability of the Scriptures themselves. Some dismiss the Bible as just another ancient book passed through too many hands to be trusted, but the evidence tells a different story. The manuscripts we have of the New Testament are more numerous, more consistent, and closer in date to the original writings than any other work of ancient history. If we discard the Bible for lack of evidence, we would have to discard everything we know about ancient history. And yet no serious historian does that. Why? Because the record stands firm, and at the center of that record is the resurrection. Everything hinges on this. If Jesus remained in the tomb, then his claims collapse. But if he rose from the dead, then every word he spoke is true. The resurrection is not a fairy tale passed down by wishful followers. It is a historical event witnessed by more than 500 people at once, recorded in multiple independent accounts, and preached in the very city where it happened within weeks of the event. If the body of Jesus still lay in the tomb, the authorities could have ended the Christian movement on day one by producing it. But they couldn't because it wasn't there. The tomb was empty and history has never been able to explain it away. Some say, oh well, maybe the disciples made it up. But men do not willingly die for what they know to be a lie. And every one of them faced persecution, torture, and death, refusing to deny that they had seen him alive. They didn't just believe it, they knew it. They went to their graves declaring it. That kind of conviction cannot be faked. Then there's the evidence that is still unfolding today, the transformed lives of those who believe. Across centuries and continents, the same pattern repeats. Men and women broken by sin find forgiveness, freedom, and hope through Christ. Addictions are broken. Bitterness is healed. Hearts are changed from selfishness to compassion. This is not the result of positive thinking or moral self-improvement. It is the supernatural work of the living God through the power of the gospel. I've seen it in people the world had given up on. I've seen it in the quiet but undeniable change of a heart that suddenly begins to love what it once hated and hate what it once loved. When you put all this together, prophecy, history, eyewitness testimony, the empty tomb, and transformed lives, you are left with only two choices. You can reject it, but you cannot honestly say there is no evidence. The evidence is abundant, compelling, and demanding of a verdict. It does not force belief, but it leaves no room for indifference. That's why the claim of one way to God is not narrow-minded arrogance. It's not a human invention designed to control or exclude. It's a conclusion based on facts that have stood the test of centuries of scrutiny. To deny it, you must ignore the evidence. To accept it, you must humble yourself before the one it points to. And once you see the truth for what it is, the only question left is what you will do with it. Because the evidence is not given for curiosity's sake. It's given so that you might believe, and in believing have life in His name. If we have established that there is only one way to God, some might hear that and feel as though the door has been slammed shut on them. They imagine God as a gatekeeper, allowing only a select few to enter, leaving the rest to wander hopelessly. But nothing could be further from the truth. The very reason there is only one way is because God in His mercy has made a way at all, and that way is open to everyone. This is where the heart of the gospel shines brightest. The way to God is exclusive in truth, but it is inclusive in invitation. It doesn't matter where you were born, what language you speak, how much money you have, or what kind of past you carry. The invitation is extended across every border, every culture, every social class. It is the same for the child in the crowded streets of a city as it is for the farmer working the quiet fields. It is the same for the person who has grown up surrounded by church walls and for the one who has never stepped inside one. Sometimes people think they are disqualified. They say, "You don't know what I've done. You don't know how far I've gone. You don't know the damage I've caused." And maybe that's true. I don't know. But God does. He knows every word, every thought, every action, and still His invitation stands. The cross was not for the perfect. It was for the guilty. It was for those weighed down by shame, those bound by chains of sin, those who could not fix themselves no matter how hard they tried. In fact, the more broken you are, the more you are exactly the kind of person Jesus came for. Think about it. If there were many ways to God, then it would make sense that each of us could simply choose the one that fits us best. But that would also mean our salvation would depend on our ability to find the right path, to follow the right rules, to perform at the right level. And the truth is, none of us could do it. That's why God didn't give us 100 ways. He gave us one perfect way, and then He flung the door of that way wide open so that anyone who will believe can walk through. The Bible says, "Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." That word, whoever, is the most beautiful part of the promise. It erases every barrier. It tells the sinner and the saint, the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the young and the old, that the same grace is available to all. No one is turned away because of the color of their skin, the mistakes in their past, or the failures in their present. The only thing that can keep a person out is their own refusal to come. And here's something to remember: the invitation is urgent. It's not just a come if you feel like it's someday. It's a come now, not because God is impatient, but because He knows how fragile life is. Every heartbeat is a gift, and not one of us is promised the next. The door is open now. The way is clear now. The Savior is calling now. But the day will come when that door will close, not because God wants to keep people out, but because the time of decision will have passed. I have seen with my own eyes the difference this invitation makes when it is accepted. I've seen hardened criminals transformed into humble servants of Christ. I've seen people trapped in despair lifted into unshakable joy. I've seen families torn apart by sin be restored in love. And every single one of them found hope in the same place, at the feet of the one who is the way. You see, this is not a message of restriction. It is a message of rescue. It's not a warning designed to keep you in fear. It's a promise designed to set you free. And that promise doesn't come with fine print or hidden conditions. It's as simple and as profound as this: if you will come, He will receive you. If you will believe, He will save you. So yes, there is only one way to God, but that way is open to anyone who will take it. And the only thing standing between you and that way is the decision you make right now.